Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of Council of May 7th, it being exactly 7 p.m. We have the land acknowledgement in our agenda. I'll call the meeting to order. Any concerns or conflicts with the agenda? Then we can move to the adoption. Council will be aware we have a revised version of a 150-odd page document, I believe, that we'll be looking at under item 6.1. And I believe I'm correct in saying amendments to item 6.4. There's the shorter version. So this version, Council?
Sorry, Your Worship. To note the item 6.4, there is some updated numbers that are in the staff report, but the bylaw is not affected by that.
So it's just so we're doing page 2. This is page 205, replaces 205. Great, thank you. Okay, so with those amendments, unless there's anything else to add, I'll entertain a motion to adopt as amended. Thank you. Second, all in favor? Carried. All right, without further ado, we can go to item 5.1, which is on page 3, the DVP 47545 Islet Place. And Mr. Hall is here.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we have a report here, not asking you to make a decision tonight on the DVP itself, but we've got three options to consider. And I know there's been some correspondence earlier in the day. We've had a couple of emails come in from residents in response to the mail out, both kind of not supportive of the variance idea. Just to follow up on the options and to follow up on Director Allen's email to council, just to summarize it, we kind of got the proposal to consider supporting a DVP for a limited period of time, and then at the end of that period of time, you're kind of looking at the ideal would be that the property owner creates space on their own property, meets the zoning bylaw requirements for off-street parking, and then they just get the business license as normal, rather than kind of considering pursuing a lease and road improvements. I mean, that would be a kind of the lesser ideal option based on everything that we've kind of gone through. So that's kind of the still options before you, as well as just denying the DVP as well. But
okay, I have been busy, so I have not had the benefit of seeing those emails. Is there anything that you want to highlight? Or?
Just the two comments from the public were just concerned with the variance and the I guess the having the parking on the street and the impact on the neighborhood from having sort of the STR parking onto the street.
Okay, so concerns from the public.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Councillor Inkster.
Thank you. I'm glad that Mr. Hall mentioned that we are not making a decision on this one tonight. I think that the information that has been provided from two community members should be read very carefully, and especially some files, I believe, presented by one community member that didn't send the two emails, but the other one. Historically, there's a lot of historical knowledge of those neighborhoods and the issues in the early 2000s and the 1990s that is either alluded to or has been spoken to past 2000, with the knowledge being presented from those two individuals to council. So I think we really need to read those documents. Council really should look at those documents and or read. There's a lot. There was a number of issues with. It was actually called B&Bs back then, and STR is sort of a modern one, but I guess people don't like making breakfast anymore. But they were called B&Bs back then, and there was a lot of issues on the inlet with B&Bs back then, and there was some because it was well known in the community, I will say some legal issues that the district ended up involved in over B&Bs back then. So we really need to be very careful as we proceed with a couple of them. I'm not saying this one necessarily, but I'm just saying on the inlet there was some issues that caused some legal costs and issues with the district as we proceeded with B&Bs in the late 90s and early 2000s. So I think we should tread very carefully. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Toth?
Thank you. Just a quick one through you, seeking some clarity from staff. This property is currently listed for sale. And so I'm just wondering how the DVP or, any sort of a temporary structure, if we go down that path, would flow to a new owner, or would it? Thank you.
Mr. Hall?
Yeah, I think if council was considering a DVP, we would look at trying to, as we propose, like limiting it in time, and trying to limit the scope of that so it's not granting a permanent DVP for all time for any ownership of the property. The idea would be to consider a limited time only as a interim measure before moving to the permanent solution of ideally providing parking on site, or if council was willing to explore an alternative option like we've described. But ultimately, the DVP would be a interim, short-term.
Right, but I think the question, does a DVP apply to the land or to the owner?
There is some scope to kind of tailor it a little bit, like we can set it at least in terms of the time, and limit it that way. So it may be harder to limit it to the ownership if it changed within that time period, but the idea would be to limit it in time anyway.
Okay, so. Councillor Bell, please.
Yes, through the chair. Just looking at page 5. So it looks like, I know that there's probably considerable history to this property. And I'm looking at page 5 or under the business license history. So it says that that the Twanic Hotel is operated at 7545 Isle Road or place with a valid business license from 2006 to 2022. Then since the new SDR regulations, there have not been a valid business license. Is that still the case at this point? Is this what's driving this?
Yeah, there is not a business license that has been issued. So in 2023, they applied and we identified these parking issues. And it, not specific to this property, this is something that kind of came out of the new regulations on a number of properties where the previous scheme wasn't looking at parking as rigorously as we are under the new system. So this was one of those properties where we identified this as an issue where, in fact, they don't have parking on site. And therefore, we couldn't issue them a business license because they didn't meet the parking requirements. But they have continued to operate without a license.
But just to clarify that, so do they have a business license now?
No.
No, so they're still
Yeah.
outside. Okay, thank you. Councillor Shepherd?
Oh, just one more. Sorry, I just wanted to finish. And so I'm glad, I also echo what Councillor Inkster's comment. I think that, this parking issue has been around this property for some time. And I think if we're looking at even parking on the street is something that I would encourage all the councillors to just drive down into that area. It's very, very narrow. There's people that walk down there, and I just want you to just have a look and just take a drive down there. It's something that I think we should all do, just so we know the status of that. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Shepherd?
Through the chair to staff, one of the options is obviously that council rejects the proposal put forward by staff to create the extra parking spaces. Has there been any discussion with the property owner about what they can do on their own property to create more parking? Any other options? I think it was pointed out in a letter from one of the people objecting that the property owner themselves aren't looking at, I think one of the ideas mentioned was changing some landscaping or to recreate some parking that had been there, taking down buildings, something like that. Any ideas that the property owners come forward with? Thanks.
No, they haven't come forward with any ideas. We certainly suggested that there would be an opportunity for them to create parking on their property. I mean, it would involve, at the very least, removal of trees and landscaping, if not potentially removal of a building to create space. So, I mean, in the sense, it is theoretically possible. It just would require some work. So, I mean, we have made those suggestions, but they haven't offered to do anything.
Okay, thanks. Other questions? Please, Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, through the chair. Can you tell us what is in that building that might be removed? I think it's referred to as a spa or accessory building. Sometimes it's referred to, they were feared at one point that it was going to be another dwelling, so I haven't been in there, so if you could clarify that, thanks.
Yeah, it has more recently been operated as a spa. So that's another related piece of the, that would require sort of a separate business license, and it would have its own parking requirements. So as part of trying to work towards the STR business license, the applicant, the owner has been willing to say they would cease the spa operation because they couldn't, they don't have enough parking for the spa and the STR and the residential use, so they'd be willing to close down the spa and simply focus on what they can do to get the STR operation up and running. So in that sense, if the spa shuts down, then they could potentially remove that building.
Mhm. Yeah, okay, thank you. Please.
Further to that. So this is called a hotel, but it really is a short-term rental, as far as I know. And so given that it's basically recommended here to be a type 3 short-term rental, I didn't think that was supported anymore, that you would need somebody to reside there and then run the other STR units. And that would, limit things if it was actually run according to the new law for the BC government. Thank you.
Sure, definitely, like type 3s no longer exist. That's not an option. So previously they have rented 3 bedrooms. They have said that there is an operator that would live on site, so that would occupy one of the bedrooms, and then they'd be only able to rent out 2 bedrooms. So that's how it would function as basically a type 1. There's no secondary suite there, so it would be a type 1 STR renting out 2 bedrooms, and the operator would live in the 3rd bedroom. And the operator is not the owner, but the operator obviously has to be a principal resident.
Right. Can I, so to follow up, I thought I read that the operator, not the owner, is living on site?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, thanks. Okay. Anything, folks? We need some sense. I guess I'm curious, what is staff's recommendation? It's pretty unusual to come to us saying, here are 3. Normally you come and say, this is what we recommend, and here are 2 or 3 other options. Do you have a recommendation for us?
That's maybe a harder situation. This is kind of unique, and I guess with the potential for a variance and potential for a lease, et cetera, we didn't want to come up with a scheme and kind of present that to council, as it's something that council hasn't considered before in any of these contexts. So that's kind of why we're seeking direction on a bunch of these things. But at the same time, I guess if there was a recommendation, probably the ultimate best solution would be for the property owner to create parking on their property, and then there's no need for any other complicated scheme, because there would be sufficient space on the property. They just have to make efforts to create that space.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that would ultimately,
So your assessment, they could do that,
yes.
even with waterfront setbacks and so on?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would be more feasible than what we've kind of proposed in terms of the considering the lease, both charging a fair market value for the lease, as well as requiring road improvements to create better parking spaces and fixing all of the access points. I mean, would require substantial work compared to just creating parking spaces on their property.
Mhm. Okay, Councillor Shepherd.
I'll make a motion that we direct staff to go back to the property owner and ask them to take a look at creating the necessary parking spaces within their property.
Okay, so sorry, is it? Well, is it, okay. That what we're asking you, because 1 and 2 have different, I think I'm right. The only difference between 1 and 2 is a year, an extra year. And option 3 is deny. Oh, so your motion is option 3? Okay, is there a seconder? Okay. Okay, so this is where it's unusual. If we vote, if we support this motion, then this is, staff are looking for direction rather than, and that you bring back a report to us. So if we vote in favor of this, are we denying the application?
Yes, that would be.
Please, Councillor Duff.
Thank you. Something I picked up a couple weeks ago when I was at a conference over in Victoria, with the provincial registry and the requirement for operators to be listed within the provincial registry. The ministry was explaining that business licenses will automatically feed up to that registry. So if there is an operator that is operating without a business license, or the municipality suspends its business license, that information will be known by the province basically immediately. And they will be, automatically delisted from rental platforms. So the whole not having a business license while they try and work through some stuff or what have you, it's not going to fly moving forward with the province. So I just wanted to share that with council because I don't know that it was explained in a public release anywhere in that sort of nuanced fashion. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Other comments,
Yeah.
please, Councillor McLaughlin.
Yeah, I'm sort of seeing the same way as Councillor Shepherd because the provincial legislation is going to dictate, they're going to have a new owner. Would be nice considering all the suggested infractions that have happened over the years with this property, that if there is a new owner, that they just go by the rules. And they've got a pretty big property there. They've already got lots of benefits, which I think have cost the community in terms of parking, et cetera, over time. So I think enough is enough, and we should just let the current laws by the province for STRs dictate here. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Shepherd.
Through the chair, I just would like to sort of backstop all of the comments by saying I certainly do want short-term rentals here. We need more for the community. It's just that the parking issue has to be solved. So it seems to me it's a perfect location for it. They just have to solve that parking issue.
Okay. Okay, well, Councillor Bell.
Yeah,
please.
just through the chair. So that is a clarification question that you're asking. Councillor Shepherd. So that's what we're talking about here. This will continue and can continue as an STR. They can, or whatever they choose it to be, as long as they get their parking requirements worked out so that they can get a business license. Is that pretty much the bottom line? It's a little unclear.
Yeah, I guess if they want to continue operating without bylaw enforcement action then, and get a business license, then they need to provide parking. And if council denies the DVP, then parking has to comply with the zoning bylaw requirements. So they would have to create it on their property, and then, there's no other outstanding issues that would prevent us from issuing the business license other than the parking.
Okay, and how is it that this has continued for whatever it is, 3 years without it coming to us before? Like I'm concerned now, we do this, shouldn't we be saying until you fix the parking? Isn't that the intent of the resolution? We deny the application, then they shouldn't be operating until they get the parking. Which is why I'm actually more in favor of one, as in let's let them work on it. And because I support what you said, Councillor Shepherd, we do need STRs. So the definitive thing as outlined in number 3 is pretty black and white, and yet we're still saying we're gonna maybe let them continue to operate without a business license. Well, it seems a bit of a, not clear. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, I think that where we're proceeding here is good. Instead of putting the cart before the horse, we're putting the horse in front of the cart. And I'll be supporting 3, and I would like to call the vote, please.
Counselor Bell.
So I'm going to go back to this around the short-term rentals because it makes me think a little bit of same. I think we still need them. So if we look at, again, clarification, if we look at number 1, and we've got A, B, and C. So C, instead of 1B before 2026, the owner would be required to construct proper off-street parking within their private property boundaries, which could mean exactly what we're talking about, that building or something within their property. So they can continue to operate during that time. And what are we talking, before 2026? So
So
is that
this year.
correct?
This year.
Yeah, this year.
That's why I raise it.
Yeah.
Number 3 to me is you're shut down
You're shut down.
today. And I want to check if that's council's intention, that's fine, but please, Counselor Toth.
Thank you. If they made application in 2023 and parking issues were identified at that time, they should have
Mhm.
solved them in 2023.
Mhm.
As far as I'm concerned, if you're doing business in Seychelles, you should have a business license. So I'm totally fine with
Yep.
this. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, and I know the business license is a curious thing for me as well. But I would prefer to give them, I suppose you call it final notice, get it fixed this year, but, okay. Not seeing any other questions, comments, I'll call the vote. All in favor of option 3? Opposed? Opposed, Counselor Rowe, I didn't see you vote. Okay, thank you. The motion carries. Council, we then go to item 5.2, the notice on title for Mason Road. Good evening, Mr. Knives. So
evening,
we
Your
have
Worship.
your report. I'm sure many of us have wandered up Mason Road and discovered a very high bush. So perhaps we have your report, but is there anything, any update to your report?
Not really, Your Worship. We've had, since we warned the owner that we were seeking notice on title for violation of the building bylaw, there's been no communication.
Right. Yeah, he's not online by any chance. Okay. All right. Council? Is it, any questions for Mr. Knives? Not. I'll entertain a motion. Counselor Shepherd, second Counselor Bell, as soon as Counselor Shepherd tells us what his motion is.
I'll move the recommendations 1 and 2 on page 12.
Right. And that's seconded, Counselor Bell. Question? Yes.
Thank you. Unauthorized construction, I would love a little more detail. Like, are we talking about a shed, a dwelling, a swimming pool? Thanks.
All right. Yep.
I'd be happy to elaborate, Councillor Toth through the mayor. We noticed that there were several structures, RVs had been placed on the property and decks built around them with every intention that they would be used as dwellings. Also, we noticed that a garage had been enclosed and converted into a dwelling unit without proper permits.
Okay. Anything else, Council? The vote, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And then we go to 4931 Skylark. I guess it's something similar.
Thank you, Your Worship. The only update I have for you is that the owners did call for a final inspection on April 30th, but there was practically no change from the inspection performed almost 9 months ago. So they are in effect occupying without a final inspection or occupancy permit.
Counselor Toth?
Thank you. I guess my only question would be, is this owner occupied or is it a rental? Because if it's owner occupied, notice on title's great. But if it's renter occupied, a renter's not necessarily going to know that this unsafe condition exists. Thanks.
Councillor Toth, through the mayor, I believe that it is owner occupied.
All right. Anything? And yeah, same question, Counselor Toth. reminds me, or do we have them online by any chance? Ms. Paulson? Nope. Very good. Okay. Motion, if it suits. Thank you, Councillor Shepherd.
I'll move the two recommendations, 1 and 2 on page 15.
Great. And a second. Any further discussion? Favor? Carried. Very good. Thank you. All right, so council, that's very good. Post on time. So we'll turn to item 6.1 and turn it over to Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Your Worship. First thing I have to do is regretfully inform you that the document which is supplied in with the report, which is supplemental information, had a number of graphical punctuation and a number of the business cases needed to be swapped out, and that was done today. So you have a new document in front of you. Normally, we would ask you to receive that. We're not asking for that tonight. We're going to be continuing with this document until Friday, and then it'll go on next week's agenda, which then you can receive, and you'll have time to go through it.
Okay, oh, thank you. All right, now I understand. So today you're proposing we'll go through, but
Yes, but next week.
so we'll spend time today, but we'll formally receive it.
To receive this document next
Today.
week, yes.
Then next
Yeah.
week we'll give 3 readings.
No, 3 readings tonight and final adoption next week.
Okay,
So included with the report is the bylaw, and the bylaw is built on the premise of the council's previous decisions, committee of the whole and council's previous decisions. 5.62% increase for operations, 3% for capital. It also includes the capital that council previously approved for all, capital for all sewer, septage, and for general operating fund. Also includes a 3.95% increase for sewer user fees and a 6% increase for septage disposal fees. Also added to the budget are any carryover projects, whether they are additional operating requests from 2024 that weren't completed in 2024. They are now added to the 2025 budget, as well as any capital projects that were approved in 2024 that were not completed. They are also added to the capital list. There's any questions?
okay. Thanks. Okay, so council, how do you want to proceed? I mean, is there a way, not right now, I suppose, with a large document, but to know what the changes are so we don't have to go through?
I can send that out to council. There's numerous pages and numerous typos.
Yeah.
You know, one page had 3 typos, you know.
I don't think we're as concerned about typos, but if you said something about some
Just
budget plans have been swapped out?
not budget numbers, no, just a couple of the business cases
I bet-
needed to match the capital that was approved.
Right.
So business cases are just supplementary information, but the capital listing is absolutely correct
And is unchanged.
and is
Yeah,
unchanged,
right, thanks.
except for what I explained about carryover projects.
Okay. Okay, I certainly would appreciate knowing, rather than reading it fresh, if we could get that. by
Yep,
email
I will
tomorrow.
send that out.
Yep. Okay, council? Yep. Questions? Can I clarify then on page 20, near the bottom, the reference is the last paragraph. This is an increase of 2 million, so on, over 2023?
2024.
Thank you. Okay. I assumed it was 2024, but then reading, so that's a 10% increase over for 2025 over what we spent in 2024. approximately.
Approximately, but it includes, additional operating requests. It's not just
Yep.
all operating.
Oh, that's, thank you. Jump in, anybody?
I'm curious, through the chair,
Mhm.
curious around what this document is that's also here.
We'll come to that.
Oh,
If
okay.
that, if for reference, is page 205 of our agenda package. Okay. Others, folks? Guys, okay? Please, Councillor Shepherd.
So just to follow up on the mayor's point, the $2 million increase is composed of mostly, is it contractual? RCMP salaries, union contracts for staff? Just if you could highlight the main changes.
Yes, those are definitely included. Also lifts to other organizations like the library. But I think you hit the main ones. We have also increases for hydroelectric, gas. And then our additional operating requests that we've asked for is on top of that.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Tough.
Thank you. I suspect I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. So I see at the bottom of page 20 there, it mentions vehicle fuel. I would say that the fuel pricing is vastly different from where it was when we were deliberating originally. So I wouldn't have expected any changes in this document in the last, couple of weeks based on the carbon tax coming off and whatnot. But yeah, was that incorporated or not? Thanks.
Mhm. So the question is, was this based on pre-carbon tax fuel prices?
Yeah, yes, it was.
People, I don't want to move too far through. You want questions on anything in the section, pages 20 to 30? No?
Through the chair, I think really, for me at this point, I really would like to see the summary. I think that would be helpful. I mean, we've spent a lot of time on these numbers. I think it'll be very helpful and just in terms of what that increase is in the contractual. You've already talked about that, but if you could be a little, if you could outline that. But other than that, I know I just need some time to go through this. I think there hasn't been significant change since we put this together, as far as I can see.
No, that's, I mean, this is pretty much similar other than, yes, I think, but, so you're looking for details that are the components of the stuff at the bottom of page 20?
Yeah, I think it's just, again, it's just mainly to see, as I say, I don't think
No,
there's
no,
been.
that's fine. I just
Yeah,
wanna
there's
make
not a
it
lot of
clear.
change in the budget. I think if there's anything, it's just really what has changed and just what that is.
Yeah,
So,
and as we went through the budget process, we talked about it at different stages.
Yeah.
The 3% for capital is in there, right? And that's $400,000. I think the RCMP was close to $300,000. I believe making increases to contracts was close to $300,000. And then we had a number of additional operating requests that council approved as well.
yeah, no, I'm good with it. I don't need any more information. I think, we did spend a lot of time. It's just a little refresher for me, it's a long process.
Okay. Thank you. So you're okay then,
Yes.
Councillor Bell, Councillor Inkster?
Yeah, the figures that we are provided, if you look at page 24 as an example, to look at the changes in our
Page-
expenditures.
Page 46
Is that, oh, is it online as 46?
on our,
On
Published,
this
yes.
agenda, okay. So the agenda that I have says 24, but it's
Yeah.
basically general operating fund.
Mhm.
And 2029, the general operating fund, it shows a couple of changes. One, we always, we should keep in mind every year that there's automatically 3% based on our contribution to asset management. So take that off the top. And then this year, as was mentioned by Mr. Douglas, the RCMP was almost 3%, so take that off the top. So you're talking at a 2 to 3% increase in those other areas then that were mentioned in terms of contractual and otherwise. So, and that's what it comes down to. That's a change this year. So, I mean, in the past years, we used to have an increase, as I recall, many years ago, was between 1.5% and 3%, and that's sort of where we would be at without those two costs. Although we funded RCMP a little bit differently. The gas question is a good one because I always hope we've gone through a program of right-sizing our vehicles and any electrification if needed. The upfront cost is higher, but the operating cost goes down over a number of years if we add a number of electric vehicles. So that's, and/or hybrids. So that's something that I hope we're doing as part of our vehicle plan. Thanks.
okay, thank you. Okay. Could we go to page 39 then? And Mr. Douglas, could you give us the rationale? So this, as council knows, is the 5-year plan. It's a little bit, I'll say it, a little bit artificial. We're obliged to do it, but I don't think there's any consequences if we change next year's budget
And no,
in
not at
next
all.
year.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So,
Yep, sorry.
yeah. Oh.
The community charter wants us to plan out 5 years.
Mhm.
And so we take a really good stab at looking at what the needs may be in over the next 5 years. And those plans can change or they can proceed as planned. There's always differences from year to year.
So what is like in calculating just the top line, the taxation, what sort of logic are you applying to look forward at future years?
You're asking around the taxation?
Yeah, I mean, any of them,
Well,
but
yeah, well, we took, our AOR plan, additional operating request plan, and we pushed it out 5 years. And so those things are incorporated in there. I'm thinking that the next year's tax increase is similar to this year's, and then there would be a slow tail down with this plan.
mhm. Okay,
Um,
that's why I'm asking, because I looked at them and the assumption, and I emphasize things will change, but it's 7.8% next year, 8% the year after, and then it tails 7%, 6%, including the 3%.
Yep, but there's a little bit built in there for new construction as well, so
Mhm.
it's maybe not quite that high, but it's not far off.
Right.
Yep.
Council follows that or the logic. And so when you're able to be prescriptive, you are, but otherwise it's a set of assumptions and cost of living and.
Yep, I mean, we try to, even with the capital plan and the funding, we try to take a reasonable approach to it all. It's, we're trying not to over budget. I don't think that's fair to the community or,
Yep. Yeah. Great. Okay. And I guess we got lucky with interest rates in 2024, and fortunately, I agree with not assuming we're going to get fortunate again. But what would, 2.1 million is a lot of money, at 5 or 6, 5%, I guess is probably what we were getting. So
yep,
what,
we're 5 something.
what contributed? Like, we hold back on paying our suppliers for extra period of time?
No, I think we have a little more funds in the bank today than we did 5 years ago. That's a contributor.
Mhm.
Definitely the high interest rates is a huge, part of that. But yeah, the fact that we have some cash surplus and we have, some reserves that have money in it. We still have although we transfer interest to the Growing Communities Fund and all that kind of stuff, it's still part of that 2.1 million.
Okay, that's a good point. So with the reserves, we earn money on the reserves, the various reserves.
Yes.
We don't add that to the reserves.
Yeah, they have to be, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
But it's shown as a transfer to reserve. On the
Right.
financial statements, you would
Yes.
see that
yeah, down.
as you're transferring, the money you transfer to, say, the Growing Communities Fund would be an amount for interest.
Right, but we've only transferred 300,000.
Well, this is a combination of in and outs, so you wouldn't see that here as detail,
Okay. Okay, great. That's good news because then we're not reliant on the 2 million to keep
Nope.
our taxes down.
No. But what we have been doing over the last 2 years is utilizing it in the next year, right? So if we have $1 million created from surplus of interest, we've then kept the next year's the next year's property taxes down by utilizing those funds.
Right, but if we've taken, all I'm concerned with is 2 million down to 700,000 is like a 12% tax increase. But we're actually taking most of that 2 million and applying it into reserves, or a lot of it.
Do you say that again?
The 2 million that we have coming in from interest.
Yes.
A significant chunk of it is being added to the various capital reserve
No.
amounts.
Well, a chunk of the interest is going to the reserves,
Yes,
but the majority of that windfall is going to fund the following year's operations.
right. The majority. Okay, my question, if we have reserves, I think it makes sense to, anything we earn on those reserves should be building that reserve
And they
fund.
do,
That's.
right? But to the
Yeah.
5% of the balance or the
Yes, yeah,
average percentage to
Right.
the balance of the reserve.
Yep.
Yep.
good. Okay, so that just doesn't show up because of the way it's presented, but. that's fine.
Correct.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Please.
Yeah, the fact that we earn interest on a number of the investments and they were high the last couple of years is something I've been talking about for a couple of years now. So it's been good to see the 4% and 5% that's come back to us. And also the opposite side of it, we haven't really borrowed a lot. So we're not paying a lot in interest back the other way, but we're collecting a lot because of the amount of money that we have in the bank. So that's good to see. And how we move forward with the money we made. I think it's going to go down between 3% and 4%. It sounds like might go lower. Which is good if you're a borrower, but not necessarily as good if you're an investor. We always go through that. Regional district is interesting because and we're part of the regional district, so it's an important point to make is that their big loans right now are water. A lot of them are water related because the rec centers, much like our costs are dropping off the books. And a lot of those bills and a lot of those borrowing will drop off the books, and how they move forward with that particular bill to the taxpayers will be different, or will be a discussion. But it's just interesting to see the local governments on the Sunshine Coast, the water big there. Us, we don't have many bills. We haven't borrowed much in the regional districts. It's mostly water. Rec centers is coming off. 2 huge expenditures. I think there was one that came off this last year with us. Wasn't one just came off? I'm trying to remember. The Justice Services building, or what was?
No, it
the
was
Water
2
Resource
years ago.
Center.
Half
Yeah.
the Water Resource Center came
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
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 Half what?
Well, we got one payment left.
We have one
this
payment
year
left
for the
this
Water
year.
Resource
Yeah.
So
Center.
the Water Resource Center and then the Justice Service Building been done for a while.
Couple of years, yeah.
Couple of years. So
Mhm.
those are big.
Yep.
Yeah. That allows us more borrowing, but also doesn't have us pay a lot of interest. Thanks.
Okay. Please, oh, sorry, Councillor Toth.
That's okay. I'm going to move the recommendation on page 18.
Okay, you're a seconder. Ready for that? Yes, thanks, seconded. Okay. Any other questions? Discussion? All right. I don't see other hands up. Move on. We'll call for a vote. All in favor of sorry, it's clear. This is on page 18, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Two. All right, so then we go to page 181 in our agenda package. And this is before us for 3 readings. And so this is where, my right, page 185, we've made corrections to the spelling as referenced earlier, Seashelt and cities. Please, if yes, sir.
Yep, under 6, funding for infrastructure replacement, it's one of the policies or priorities. Just one typo under objective, Seashell was spelled without a E, and city should be districts.
Right. So, council, you're okay? We're voting on it as amended? And that's the only change, Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Yeah. Sure. Very nice. Profit district. Okay. Everybody clear? Did I get a motion? I did not get a motion yet. What's your motion, Councillor Rowe? Okay, and I'll speak on behalf of Councillor Rowe, whose microphone didn't turn on for some reason, to move 3 readings. There, it's okay. We can manage. There. No, don't do that or you'll have the camera turning on this.
Okay, I'll move it for 3 readings.
Thank you. Okay, and seconded, I saw a second. Yep. Okay, any further discussion? 3 readings on the bylaw. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So that's page 185. Sure. Are we done with? We can then go to 6.2, am I right? We're on to 6.2, septage disposal fees. Same thing, recommended for 3 readings and then the bylaws, so. You want to move? Thank you. So I'll second it, time. So this is page 188, the recommendation, all in favor of giving 3 readings? Carried. And so we go to 190, which is the bylaw. Last 191. 190, huh, look at that. How's that? Okay, so page 190, to give 3 readings to bylaw number 483-7, 2024? Right.
On 192.
Okay, so it's in, I'm looking at the bookmarks for the PDF, which is why it's, okay. So this is on page 192, septic disposal fee amendment bylaw 48308, 2025. Moved for 3 readings?
Yes, please. There's no questions on it, so I'll move 3.
Okay. Second. Oh, I got a second as well, so, yeah. All right, all in favor? Carried. So then we can go to the sewer user fees, which I hope is on page 194. Again, sewer fees amendment bylaw for 26/20/2025. Okay. Move motion, Counselor Shepherd. Second, Counselor Toth, I saw first. And, okay, all in favor of the recommendation? Carried. We'll go to the bylaw itself. So this is on page 199. Your user fee amendment bylaw for 26/20/2025 on page 199.
Comment. Okay. Just a comment. I'm looking at page 201, for example, and a couple of the items in here are listed as 80% of metered water at $1.37 per cubic meter, just because of the nature of the business. For whatever reason, and I don't think it really affects much, that $1.37 was not adjusted from the 2024 bylaw. So that those rates have not actually changed if you're one of those businesses. But I don't see it, we don't really have any fish processing plants on sewer. So I'm willing to just move 3 readings at this time. Thanks.
Okay, so it really applies to 12 and 13 at the top of page 201, looks like. So council okay with that, is it?
Yes, if we can always come back with amendment if there's a,
Okay. Yeah, maybe before final. Yeah. Okay. All right. That was, so your motion is for 3 readings? Seconder, thank you. Further discussion? Any discussion? In favor? Carried. Thank you. So then I think we go to 202. And this is where 205 comes in as well. So this piece that was handed out applies to this particular section. Please, Counselor Toth.
Thank you. I'm just seeking a little bit of clarity because I'm sure I'm missing something, but looking at page 205 specifically, the general municipal for the second and third ones, last figure examples on here are updated with the attached physical papers. But it looks like the first one is unchanged. And so I was just wondering if that 10.47 was correct.
Okay, because
Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Smith with us.
Thanks. Good evening.
Joining the party.
Through the chair. So yeah, the first one is actually calculated based on average. So for 2025, it's the assessed value average. And then we're just comparing it to 2024's BC assessments, just their average folio for the District of Sechelt. So it does calculate, like I said, it shows a 10.4% or 10.47% increase, but that's not, it varies depending on the assessed value and where your property lands. The other two, the lower and the higher calculations are close. It's about 8.68%. And again, that depends on where your assessment is.
Yeah, no,
yeah, there's no relation between those two numbers other than one was the average for 2024 and the other one's the average calculated for 2025.
okay, so not seeing others. So if I own, I'm thinking about us explaining this to a resident. So if I own an average residence, so we'll take the top one. My municipal taxes are going up by 10%, 10.4%. But we're talking about the increase being 8.62. How do we explain that?
I'll try to explain that. So if your assessed value goes down compared to the average, then your rate will be lower. So it depends on where you land in the sort of the average pool in the District of Sechelt. So it's difficult for us to calculate a scenario for every single situation. Some homes have gone up. Overall, most homes have reduced in value, but some have actually increased.
Right, so the 10.4 then is because we're saying the $2,000 increase in assessed value. Maybe, okay.
And also we're comparing 2024's BCAA's assessed value average against 2025's BCAA assessed average, not an incremental difference. It's their average from one year to the next, not the 8.62% where the other two are compared that way.
These are the questions we get on the street, so
No,
I'm sure you do as well. Maybe not.
on the phone.
Okay, so we're, okay, I'll leave it there.
Another way we look at that is that if your house increased greater than average,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going, that's what number one is kind of showing. Is that, you know, if you had an average assessed property last year, your property could be higher or lower than that. But when we look at all the BCAA numbers, BC assessment numbers, the 2025 is our new average for this year. Right? Of
Yes.
of an assessed home. So if we had, say we had 20 million, $2 million homes be built this year in 2025, that number would then go up next year as an average.
Mhm.
Right? And that's kind of what that first one is showing. The other two are showing that if your property was assessed at a certain value last year and it went down, then like the average, then you're paying very close to that 8.62% increase.
Yeah.
And the business one is laid up the same way.
Yeah. Council, follow all that? Good stuff. Please.
Thank you. And maybe it's just a communications tool to help make it easier going forward, but rather than doing the averaging, maybe we just, you know, we have a residence that was picked at $655,000 and one that was picked at 2.5. Maybe we just pick a $1 million residence to add to the mix rather than this averaged one up at the top that I think is causing us the confusion. So just feedback for later. Thanks.
The reason we depicted it that way is because it's good for everybody to know where the average is going. Right, although there was a general decline in assessed properties in Sechelt, the average actually went up, right? So that means in my view, that means you're having more homes built at a higher cost.
Good stuff, huh? Councilor McLaughlin,
Yeah,
please.
just on that point, thank you through the chair. Do they have a median value instead of average? Because average has a lot of outliers, right? Whereas median means middle most, which I think is more what people understand. Yeah.
Yeah, the province of BC puts out a number of reports about taxation and levels and all that. I can't remember seeing a median one, but I certainly can look, yeah.
Okay. Anything else? So this is section that is for recommendation as on page 202. Thank you. Motion that we recommend first, second, and third, second by me. All in favor? Carried. And then we go to the bylaw itself, which I guess is now, oh no, it's unchanged. So that's on page 207, and it's 2025 tax rate bylaw number 625, 2025. Great motion. Yeah, thank you. For 3 readings? Yeah, okay, great. Seconded. Mr. Douglas, do you want to say, just before we vote, you've made, I believe, a change from last year to make the arrears unpaid on July 3rd? This is page 208. Down,
Sorry,
item-
which
item four-
which paragraph?
4.1 or sub 1. Now I understand. So anything not paid, it's not paid by the end of July 2nd will have a penalty.
That's correct.
Right,
July 2nd is the due date this year.
right. Because I know we encountered this with online payments last year.
Right, we'll watch for those online payments this year.
Yeah,
Yeah, we won't have the same issue this year.
So all payments that we receive the next day, which would technically been processed the day before, we're going to include in
okay.
our
So the
payments.
public, you
So
got to pay
anything-
on July 2nd, but
Online, yeah.
online,
Then we will, on July 3rd, we'll
Right.
receive that batch and we'll include it in before we impose the penalty.
I think I'm right in saying before 9 PM Pacific Daylight Time. It's 6. All right. Thanks for that clarification. Okay, everybody okay? All the question, all in favor? 3 readings, carried. Okay. Great, then we can go to 6.5. Corpus Bay Harbor Regulation Amendment Bylaw. Before us for 3 readings, if it suits. Council, any questions of Mr. Douglas? Please.
Just a quick question on those rates. Are those market compared to sort of immediate slip cost nearby, like Mackenzie Arena?
Yeah, like
yeah.
these new rates are closer to market for sure. There's probably another jump that we can do next year that will bring us kind of right into the mix. Yep, but this gets us very close. Yep.
Okay, that's, Counselor Shepherd had the same thought, I guess. Is there, I mean, there's not a lot of money for anybody. I don't believe it's, like, what is the increase?
Well, because it's halfway through the year, it's probably like 10 or 12,000 bucks.
No, but to a boat owner.
Well, they're currently paying 450, so it's quite a bit more.
Right. Please go.
But this brings us up to other marinas in the area or just under, we need to find out what the market's going to bear there if we're looking at this facility down the road. And we need to get to market to see what that's going to
Right,
be.
and I suppose just, I'm wondering if it, would we not be, well, I don't know what it would take, go to $5. Would that make it up?
Yeah, 9 and almost 9, yeah.
Almost.
9,
Oh, so we'd have to go,
another $1.50, something like that.
right,
We want to get a little creative with the charges. We're not doing it here, but often you'll have an annual rate of something, and if you pay within 30 days, you get
yeah,
so it's minor discount, and we'd like to move to that model, but we're not doing it yet.
Right. Well, okay,
And that's typical with other
but we're,
marinas.
we're actually reducing the incentive.
Yeah,
prepay.
but if you don't pay, we usually ask you to leave, so.
Yeah, but we know where they go. We don't want that. Yeah. Counselor Inkster.
Yeah. Circle discussion around that. Yeah, that's an issue. Oh, thanks. I guess in the circle discussion around that, yeah, that's an issue. I sure wish we could build more fingers because, and then look and then discuss larger, what kind of business model we put there because yes, the higher the cost we put there when we're trying to have cost recovery, the more likely we may, without more fingers and opportunities to dock, push people out to the left when you look out from the dock, which is, how many boats we got there? About 100? You know, that are putting stuff into our inlet and or not being used and or abandoned. So it's a big discussion thing.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Top. Hey, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't
Yep.
see him, so. Thank you. Just a comment on page 215. Under miscellaneous, we don't charge for holding tank pump out usage, which I think is great because the alternative is people are just gonna dump it overboard. So from an environmental perspective, I think that's a great plan. But it does jog for me. A couple of years ago, we had some maintenance issues with the pump out system down there. I'm just wondering if sort of overall, if things been stable and in working order since. Thanks.
Sorry, I don't know if I can answer that right now, but I can look that up and get that answer to you. I haven't heard that it's not, so.
The dolphins around the government dock a week or so ago seemed to not mind, so. Counselor McLaughlin, please.
Thank you, through the chair. I guess on the point of pump outs, since we do have a lot of derelict vessels that don't seem to be going too far lately, I wonder if we might be able to pump out their sewage systems, which is a huge problem because obviously they're not going to come in and have that done or pay to have that done. Be nice if we could charge them when they build their own dock for being out there. That'd be great. But some seem to think that they can do that and that's their right. And so they're there. But I guess the other flip side is if you charge more, I think it's a good idea because at least you get people that are serious boaters there. If they have to charge more, maybe they'll be more likely to take care of their boat and take it out. And we'll get a better, a more useful clientele there. And I think that's something to strive for. Thanks.
How many boats do we have tied up?
I think we're limited to, depending on size,
Yeah.
28 boats.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, any other questions, council? This is, for us for. Yes. Okay, so this, Counselor Inkster, you want to make a motion to recommend 3 readings or am I? Okay, seconded, all in favor of recommending? Okay, and then, Counselor Inkster, would you like to move 3 readings of the bylaw number 494-04-2025 on page 214? Thank you, seconded. All in favor? Carried. We then go to page 216. Anything you want to comment on? Oh, it's adoption, sorry. Forgot which one I was on.
I was just
Yeah.
gonna move that
Adoption.
recommendation that we move to adoption.
Okay, I'll second the recommendation. All in favor? Carried. And then the actual bylaw for adoption, bylaw 575-18-2025 on page 218 of our agenda package. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Carried. All right, so now we go to the minutes of our meeting of April 16th. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the minutes of April 16th. Yes, no? Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'm just looking at page 225 under bylaws 6.1. I'm just noticing that rezoning for agritourism accommodation
Sorry, can you, just so we're,
at Tyson Road. Yeah,
what page to?
it's at 225.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just noting that we had a discussion about whether the bylaw could be modified, amended at that time, and
Mhm.
you said that it couldn't be.
Mhm.
And I wanted the corporate officer to confirm that, but we just went ahead anyway, assuming it couldn't be. And then we got a subsequent email outlining how, in fact, it could have been. So I just wonder about whether this should be tabled, these minutes, so we can get clarity on proper process and addressing it without just passing it by, because, I mean, it speaks to the proper running of a meeting and rights of people, counselors, to make their motions and amendments, and them being ignored, which of course I don't really appreciate myself. And so I don't know if we could table this and have them come back with some suggested change or comments regarding the process that occurred. Thank you.
Well, I'll certainly appreciate others' input, but this matter today is about the minutes. If you want to raise something else, we can certainly discuss that, but this is before us for adoption, so. Councillor Rowe, did you?
I just think my only comment is the minutes are the minutes. They're a reflection of what actually happened. And we could look at addressing Councillor McLaughlin's concern. Well, maybe through business arising through some other way, but I think the minutes are a reflection of actually what occurred at the meeting.
Councillor Inkster?
Yeah, I think I can say that I was a little remiss that meeting in not asking for corporate officer to have an opinion on that issue. Although put staff in a spot, because I do understand Councillor McLaughlin's concerns, because we could have probably dealt with it at that meeting, and then an attempted motion to be made and look for a second or further discussion. So I think we just have to be cognizant in the future of knowing, you know, the rules and or the abilities of certain council members to ask those questions at council meetings. So I'll just be more diligent in future is what I'm saying. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Yeah, I just question the validity of the minutes if they don't address that. I mean, if that happens from time to time, then, you know, really, it's not a proper run meeting, and therefore the minutes really don't reflect real fairness. So it's, you know, Robert's Rules of Order, really. And we have a lot of pretty experienced councillors and mayors here, former mayors. And so I thought it was a pretty straightforward request, and unfortunately, it was not addressed. I asked for it to be referred to at that meeting by the corporate officer, but I got no response. And I got no response from other councillors here either in support of trying to address issues at that time. So I just, you know, I just want to have faith in the system, and I want the system to support proper process so that people are getting heard and respected. Thank you.
All right, so we have,
So we can't table the minutes and have
well,
it
you
looked at?
you can make a
I'll make a
motion.
motion that we do that. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, is there a seconder? To table the minutes.
Sorry, through the chair, table the minutes because they're not accurate? There's something-
The motion was just to table the minutes, but, so,
We're tabling, we're accepting the minutes.
no, table is,
Okay.
we're
Yeah.
essentially deferring.
Sure, I'll second that.
Is there discussion on is there discussion on a motion to table?
I would have to double check on that, but I believe a discussion can be allowed at this
Mm,
stage.
Okay. So, Counselor Shepherd.
If, I guess I'd encourage Councilor McLaughlin then to, if I'm supporting the motion, if Councilor McLaughlin feels that the drafted minutes don't accurately reflect what took place, the sort of more salient points of what took place on that issue.
Well, yes, I think you've expressed that you feel they don't. It's up to us in terms of how we vote. Decide if they do. Yes?
Thank you. Through the chair, I guess my concern is the process, and if it's not a proper process, then they're not really proper minutes on that item. So, I mean, normally we assume that each item is properly addressed and dealt with. But to say you can't amend something at third reading, and then at this meeting, we were talking about maybe amending something at third reading. So it's not like I don't think people knew we could do that. Maybe you didn't want to do that, but I don't think the one in question had any real concerns in terms of transportation issues or density issues. But I think it was just to make a better motion and a better result for all the work we put into this particular item. But if you don't support it, then, we'll see if it comes up again. I'll tell you, I'll have even more concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm struggling with the concept of what is incorrect in the minutes themselves. If you don't agree, Councillor McLaughlin, if you don't agree that, process was appropriately followed, I think that's a different conversation than when the minutes are correct. That being said, there is also the ability to reconsider. Maybe, depends on what state the bylaw is at. But I also don't remember what your suggested amendments were at the time, so. Yeah, I feel that the minutes accurately reflect the actions of the meeting, whether you agree that the process during that meeting was followed correctly or not.
Counselor Inkster.
Yeah, I have to, I won't be supporting this because I have to accept the minutes as the meeting occurred. As has been indicated, there was a question made of the chair as to whether we should proceed. The chair determined that we could proceed, whether that was correct or not, or incorrect. That's actually the minutes as to what happened. I had indicated a few minutes ago that I was remiss in not saying that we could, not in backing up the council member, and that I'll try to be more diligent in the future in saying that. One of the philosophical challenges with what has occurred is that it's the will of council. So it would have been the will of council to have more discussion on that issue. Unfortunately, the will of council was in an opposite direction to Councilor McLaughlin. So there was not as much process discussion because the will of council was to proceed with the bylaw. And that's where philosophically it becomes a problem. So in future, I'm just going to ask for clarification because that's what I think happened. The will of council was to proceed. So there was no question made of the process.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion before us to table the minutes. Any other comments? You ready for the question? All in favor of tabling? All opposed? The motion is defeated. Okay, so entertain a motion to adopt. There's amendments, motion seconded. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Councillor Shepherd and McLaughlin are opposed. Motion carries. Yes. Okay, so we'll go to item 7.2. This is page 232, the committee of the whole meeting, chaired by Councillor Shepherd. Okay. Anything, folks? Not a motion to adopt? Seconded, all in favor? Carried. Then to the council meeting of April 23rd. Think we can probably take those following April 23rd. Okay. Make the motion. Councillor Bell, thank you. Second, all in favor? Carried. Okay, so matters arising. Councillor Toth.
Thank you. I guess I want to seek clarity from the corporate officer about the fact that our procedure bylaw does allow for reconsideration at the following council meeting. And so I'm just clarifying, I believe this is the following council meeting from April 16th. So theoretically, that item actually could be brought back for reconsideration by somebody who was on the prevailing side or by the mayor. Okay, I'm seeing head nodding there. That, I lost my train of thought.
Please.
If I may add some clarification, because the motion that Councilor McLaughlin is referring to is the adoption of a bylaw, we would have to be looking at rescinding the entire bylaw in order to repeat those processes. Then, as I had detailed in the clarification email I had sent, I believe April 17th, it could, depending on the changes that are proposed, it could trigger the requirement to repeat other public processes such as the public hearing, any approvals from the Ministry of Transportation, and other factors like that. So a reconsideration, it gets a little bit more complex when it's with respect to adoption. I would defer to the Director of Planning, though, on those details.
Mr. Allen, please.
Yes, that's correct. In this case, the applicant has applied for a business license, commissioned his survey, and has moved on. Without belaboring this, and if council prefers, we could write a staff report. However, the time to make changes is at third reading, which happened months ago. Fourth reading, well, council is not obliged to vote for it. Fourth reading is a perfunctory consideration after establishment of the conditions which had been in place. So the decision really was, are we prepared to adopt now that the conditions have been met? Should this bylaw be changed, we'd be back to second reading, new referrals, new public hearing. So the consideration of fourth reading is to adopt or to not adopt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Toth.
Thank you. And I guess just to sort of close out my thoughts is that I was not aware, like I received the clarification email from the corporate officer. I was not aware that a member of council had a particular issue. Perhaps if it had been expressed, we could have discussed a strategy approaching today's meeting. I'm not really a fan of doing something like this on the fly. So I won't be bringing anything back for reconsideration or rescinding or anything like that, but it's something that if we do have lead time, we can look at and we can do. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So that's matters arising. Any other matters arising from the minutes? If not, go to council, well, Sunshine Coast Regional District representatives' reports. Going first.
I think you can probably get reports from both of us and Councillor Rowe for the meetings that she attended while I was out of town. The stuff that I want to report on actually is the Chair CAO Forum that I attended April 22nd, 23rd in Victoria. It was sort of put on by UBCM and hosted by Geraldine Kirk. Number of items discussed. I actually ended up taking more notes at this than I did at AVICC because I thought the information was more relevant, more, more fresh than a lot of the stuff we've been hearing at AVICC for multiple years running now. So Minister of State Brittany Anderson let the group know that she is going to be the direct link for UBCM to the provincial government. So when UBCM goes to do its advocacy work, that's actually being done through one specific Minister of State, the province. So it doesn't have to be sort of a scattergun attempt with the ministers. Ministry of Housing reviewed 264 bylaws in 2024 for local governments across the province. So that's, you know, we reach a point in our process where we have to send something to the ministry for approval. That, yeah, 264 bylaws last year that they reviewed. Responsible conduct continues to be a priority for the province. Brian Carruthers actually presented a whole session on it, which was quite interesting. Took lots of notes. One thing that was identified as being potentially of benefit for boards is a skills matrix where you look at what every member is bringing to the table to see where there might be, you know, training shortfalls. A little late in the term to be looking at that for us now, but something interesting for staff to maybe include in the notes for the next orientation. Joint advocacy work is going to be coming forward representing all 27 regional districts in the province. Some of the topics include regulations and assistance for small water systems because they're facing requirements and infrastructure challenges that they just can't afford. Lund, I think, has like a $10.5 million bill for upgrades on a water system with, I think, less than 100 connections. The other one that they're looking at is boosting agriculture supports and sort of tightening up regulations to limit some of the non-farm work that goes on agricultural land. The province did say that they're not contemplating any changes to the procurement laws in light of tariffs. But there already are some exemptions in place and some limits that do favor Canadian vendors. So they're you know, monitoring it carefully, of course. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is a sneak peek for tomorrow's water update, which is the first of the season at Committee of the Whole tomorrow morning. Since January 1st, 20 shutoff letters have been issued for regional water, representing a combined total of 515,000 liters per day, which is with a summer target of 200 liters per person per day is about 2,500 people's worth of water a day. People. Yeah. So, you know, 1,200 homes worth of water. So quite remarkable. And that has mostly been in the Seashelt area as the meters are getting installed. So 20 letters representing 515,000 liters of water per day. So I don't know where you want to go next, but thank you.
The team.
I did attend a stimulating full day at the SCRD, Hospital Board, COW, and Board. The meetings themselves were pretty dry, pretty audited financial reports and contracts and nothing very juicy. I'm afraid that's all I have to report. But I will say we had a couple really great presentations. One was on this nonprofit called the Marine Parks Forever Society that work with the communities up and down the coast and local governments. And sort of looking after marine areas and installing stern ties and stuff for boats. So that was very interesting. And then the other meeting, we had a presentation from the Joint Child Care Council to update the childcare plan and see the progress that the Sunshine Coast is making. And we are making progress. So that was great to see. Hopefully coming to a council meeting soon to present to all of us. That's all I've got. Councillor Inkster, any?
Yeah, childcare information was good to see, and it was good to see some progress in our area, which is of concern to Councillor Rowe and myself as representatives of our community, the families and the children that need care. So that's a really important piece to see. The other issue that was brought, that was presented was, there was a water report on reservoirs that was presented to the board, and there's information available to the public out there as well as council, I'm sure, if requested. And there was some good questions from the public on those issues after that presentation. So there's some good thoughtful questions from the public, which makes which is good for the staff because it makes them think and make sure that, and puts the board thinking forward as to how, we put out our water plans over the next few years. It's a good reminder that there's staff contributions to the issue and the reports that they produce based on public need, the directors and the direction they think we need to go in and what the public sees as their questions. And so it was, I thought that was really helpful information. And then there's the water presentation tomorrow. We know, because this council's has heard from Councillor Toth, Chair Toth and myself, that water's a big issue, and snowpack, we know by looking in the mountains, snowpack's going to be an issue this year. So that's tomorrow for anyone that wants to tune in and or come listen. And yeah, it's good to have Councillor Rowe there. We could not shut Councillor Rowe up. She just was asking a lot of questions. So, thanks.
Okay. Do you want to offer any more about the water? Because you were referencing the leaks, but was that at the same meeting that the reservoirs were discussed? That's actually tomorrow. Oh.
Yeah.
Heard it here first.
Yeah.
Right.
Online.
Okay, but the reservoirs were discussed.
Yeah, there was a special committee of the whole meeting on the first, to basically put all the public information about the reservoirs into one location. So the nation did provide a presentation, staff provided an update. Not a lot, like there's nothing really new. Work continues to progress on costing and sorting out, permitting and requirements for the Lower Crown Reservoir. Yeah, that's really all I've got from that meeting. Like I said, it was just mostly to get all the information into one spot for people who don't want to dig through 100 different agendas to try and find it.
Okay, because am I right, though, the second reservoir is now off the table? Water line, which was the second reservoir to be located in the gravel pit, is off the table. So there is work underway to try and site another reservoir somewhere. And there's federal processes that have to be worked through before anything can be released publicly about potential locations. So what is what does this mean for, we're looking for, a long-term solution, but I guess the first one is what, 2 or 3 years away? Don't know.
Don't know. I mean, the bounces back and forth between 2026, 2027, depending on, the processes that have to go through, it's got to go through some sort of a public approval process for Lower Crown, whether that's an AAP or whether it's a referendum, still to be determined. Before we even can go to the public, we need to know what the operating costs are going to be, because that forms part of the question. We need to know what any potential land lease is going to be, because that forms part of the question. That's actually the primary reason to go to AAP, is because of the land lease itself. Yeah, all still work to be brought forward because it's not known yet. So the longer that takes to establish, the less likely 2026 is as a time frame. So.
Oh, yeah. That's next year. And we're always talking about summer. Okay. Any other questions for? Okay. Yeah, well, I hope that we'll see that this council will be involved in that process. It seems it's a very complex process, but at some point, I think we should be providing you with our support as our reps to what this council thinks of the proposals. Okay, council reports. Councillor Bell, and Councillor Rowe, then Shepherd, then McLaughlin, then Inkster, then Toth.
Sorry. attended our walk on Sunday with a number of people here. It was put on by the Shishut Nation for the murdered women and Indigenous women. Very somber event, however, a very necessary event in that many of this is still happening in numbers, great numbers. And so I think the most important thing about that whole event was just to continue to raise awareness around of what is happening. So it was good to support that. I think the other one I'll just say is about the new F word in on the Sunshine Coast, which is ferries. And we know that I just want to say that MLA Neil has been receiving number of letters regarding the ferries. And so the one thing I just want to bring up today is that what we've been asking is for anyone that's either reached out to us or we've had meetings with is we're just going to keep getting louder. Now, saying that, what we would like everyone to do is write a letter to both the BC Ferries and to the Ministry of Transportation. Just want to encourage those people that are unhappy in the community to do that and just inundate them with letters. And we have other thoughts around what's going to happen, but I just want to put that out there to write letters. Advocacy. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thank you. And sorry, is that Councillor Bell saying that? Or is that? Okay, great. As well, okay. No, but our MLA is encouraging letters. Great, thank you.
You know, whenever there's 5 Wednesdays in a month, it feels like it's been a long time. I don't have much to report other than the march, which Councillor Bell has already put forth. And yes, very somber event, as many of the things that we gather with First Nations are somber in nature. So, but important to take part. Thanks. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shepherd?
Yeah, I attended, I shouldn't have attended, but I did crowd in on the library board meeting, the last one. It was their AGM, and they went over their interest in the upcoming discussion of stakeholders in this facility. And their point was that both the municipal government and the library have outgrown the premises. So they're anxiously looking forward to talking with the architect that's been retained to discuss what the future is really for both groups. So that was very interesting, and I'm looking forward to taking part in that as the process goes forward. I attended the march as well. I agree that issue, this to, in terms of the murder and missing women, just has to be kept in the public limelight, and to know that it's ongoing, to see mothers and daughters there, it's just so shocking that yeah, it really hits deeply each time. And then finally, Councillor Inkster and I took part in the Sunshine Coast Community Forest AGM, and were presented with their results for the year, much better than the previous year, which was good to see. But we both encouraged them to their executive to come to council because it's been quite a while since they've come, and to present to us the sort of business lines that they're looking at entering to present sort of value add aspects to the business rather than just straight cutting of logs. And they're really looking at some interesting things. Thanks.
Yep, I agree. Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you for the chair. I just want to point out that there is more parking at City Hall and at the rec center lately because we've got rid of dumpsters and various things as the project to have the exterior has been basically completed, the exterior improved, the walls sealed, and good as practically new windows. So that is terrific news. Also, the pool, Seashell Pool, they're looking for ideas for programs, and they're developing new ideas for different groups at different times and different spaces. So anybody who has ideas there, I think it'd be great to have members of the public put forward ideas. Also, I went to the AGM for the Legion here in Seashell, and they're excited about their patio that's going to be put in place. But I noticed they were quite interested in how they should do their fencing for the patio, and I thought, well, you know, maybe it'd be a good idea to have the Downtown Business Association come up with some standards for what they might see for streetscape improvements for patios and things like that, just to create quality and a sense of continuity. Maybe get some deals on fencing bought at better rates, et cetera, so that we could not have just that done ad hoc. I mean, I've done projects before with streetscape improvements and things like that. So I find that's really a good way to brand your downtown, is with quality fencing and signage and such. They're grappling with that. Maybe they could get some help. See, Saturday, I went to the opening of the Davis Bay Market, and it was a lot of people doing lots of activities there. So the market was just started inside, but I'm looking forward to that. And there's a big greenhouse at Davis Bay Elementary. So a lot of this food is being grown there and will be brought over to the market, which is wonderful. And also I was noticing coming back from that, the huge amount of flowers in bloom at the Havies development site. Unfortunately, it's Scotch broom. The whole site is covered in a sea of Scotch broom. Now, this might normally be considered pretty or funny, but now we know through the Fire Smart information we've got that Scotch broom is particularly flammable and particularly a problem. And it's a particularly large amount there that I think needs to be recognized and probably addressed. And I know we feel it has to be burnt, but I do remember that Bryony Penn on Salt Spring Island is a really well-known environmentalist on the island. And she wrote about how you can actually take Scotch broom and take English ivy and actually turn it into a fertilizer. So maybe that's something we can pursue with her, because we can't really, I don't know how on earth we would burn that much Scotch broom. So we need some solutions there, and the sooner the better. So I also attended on Sunday the March for the Murdered and Missing Women and Indigenous Women and Girls Walk. And yeah, they do have some specifics. There's 231 calls for justice. You can view those online. They address categories of justice, governance, education, and things that the general public can do. And yeah, it was a very, very difficult but important event where we show support for the families of the Seashell Nation, especially the women. And I was sitting with a Seashell counselor, and I had no words, honestly. It's very hard, but it's important to be there to support them, and to maybe we can come up with some constructive ideas if we do look at these 231 calls for justice for our Seashell Nation friends. And they had somebody from the city of Vancouver who has been working on some of these things. One thing she suggested was that all the bus stops should be lit, and that there should be free public transportation for Indigenous girls, regardless of whether they're in school or not. And also, they've had an example of working with FortisBC to provide good industry, well-paying jobs to Indigenous women, and also to have cultural training in terms of how to run industrial organization in a manner that they would find beneficial. So I guess those are the main things. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Inkster.
Yeah, thanks. I'll start off on that last topic. It's been brought up by a number of others. I was also there. It was a good, strong showing by our council. So once again, working very closely in partnership with the Sechelt Nation is very important to this group. The issues presented were good, and there was some emotional pieces and some support given to those speaking by one of the Sechelt council members, because it was difficult for them to speak on some of the issues, relatives that had disappeared of our local Sechelt Nation. So that's an important piece to remember. The other piece is the high multiples that have been mentioned previously of First Nations females that are either have been murdered compared to other parts of the population, non-First Nations, and the abuse that still transpires within that the female First Nations group. High multiples, I think it was at least 4 times outside the First Nations. So that's one of the reasons why there's this and the things that have occurred to a number of their sisters, mothers, daughters, etc. That's why it's an important thing, and that's why I think our council was there in strong numbers to support them. The individual that did bring up the bus stops is actually a Vancouver City Planning, but actually lives in Sechelt in Bayview. So they're from the band, and so they live here. And they have a daughter, so, and they know are related to many other females, so it's important for them to bring up those issues that we should all be looking at as governments. So it was good to see, like I said. I wanted to mention a couple other things. I was at another First Nations related event, which was the Fire Smart cleanup of the Longhouse, around the Longhouse. We were there for a number of hours. We created a lot of branches and detritus from around the Longhouse, just the bottom half actually to the highway. And I think we filled up 2 huge, those big bins, and the chipper had to come. And we were only able to, maybe a couple of acres we were able to clear. So we didn't even look at beside the Longhouse or between the Longhouse and the mall. So that was the focus, but they're going to continue to do these things. And hopefully we can continue, council can continue to be involved in those events, which I think it's called Clean Up Our SWIA or something like that. Pardon? Serve Your SWIA. So that was one of the reasons why we were part of going and why I was there to help for a number of hours. So that was really good, but it's all part of Fire Smart. You know, I still think we got to stop fires from getting here, but once they get here, this is another way to stop them from spreading. And I wanted to then mention also the other important event, which was the community forest. And Councillor Shepherd and myself were there, and I think the financial reports went to, we have them, we were sent them, and I think they also went, and they're also obviously available to council upon request, but they also went to Mr. Yates and Mr. Douglas from the community forest, as they should. But it was a good meeting and a lot of good questions again from the public, and Councillor Shepherd and I'm going to start calling Councillor Shepherd Seconder Shepherd based on that meeting, and seconding my motions for the financial statements, etc. But I'm glad we went, and I'm glad we were part of the process, and asked them again to come and speak to us within the next number of weeks, talk about their operations. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Counselor Toth.
Thank you. Attended the APC meeting last night with a couple of projects. Townhouse development being proposed up in West Sechelt off of Bailey, and some exterior renovations to the mall. That's a big group when they get together, all together in person. They have to use the second set of tables to spread out. So it's always, yeah, it's good to hear them speak. They're definitely well thought when they look at a project, and the expertise that the group brings to the table. Go ahead. Okay. Don't want to interrupt you. I think the most important thing for me to report out on over the last couple of days is there's been a province of BC, Sechelt Nation land use planning series of engagements that have been going on. There was a public webinar on May 1st. We found out about it, I think, on April 29th or April 30th. They've had an open house on May 5th at the Seaside Center that was open to the public. They've got another public open house that's going to be on June 5th. They're running a session in the afternoon and a session in the evening. And so that's an opportunity for the public to come and learn and engage with the land use planning that they are looking at doing. The term is confusing, but rather than referring to it as crown land, they're now referring to it as public lands, which unfortunately lumps local government and regional districts into that because, you know, technically land that we own is public land. But when they refer to public lands, they are referring to what has been formerly known as crown land throughout the province. So the land use planning is going to have a lot of intersect with the OCP updates and all the things that our planning departments work on every day. There is an online survey that's open for the public. There's a massive engagement website with a massive engagement feedback form. The webinars are all online. And they're supposed to be forwarding something that we can add as correspondence to help sort of promote engagement because they do want to hear from as many people as they can. Yeah. And then finally, planning is already underway for CIA Days and Canada Day festivities. Hackett Park registrations are open now. The parade registrations should be opening hopefully, or I hope they're not open. I haven't. Interesting. Well, apparently the parade registrations are open even though I haven't provided my feedback on that form yet as the parade coordinator. So anyways, that's all I've got for now. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, well, I'd be remiss on behalf of all of us if I didn't appreciate and congratulate our returning MP, Patrick Weiler. We did have an election since the last council meeting. And also thanks to all the candidates who ran in our riding. We all know what it's like to run and campaign and do all that, but federally it's a huge task, especially in a riding as large as this. Council, you'll notice I'm wearing a pin. This was in honor of the people that we lost in the East 43rd Avenue tragedy. I say it that way because most of you know I have quite a number of Filipino people in my extended family, and that's a day of celebration. And I don't think that we do a service to the community to label it. It had nothing to do with Lapu Lapu Day. And there's a lot of things that we're going to have to deal with coming out of this. But I did have the opportunity on Sunday to attend a vigil that was organized by the Sunshine Coast Filipino Canadian Association. And, you know, we all know there's such an integral part. The people that come from the Philippines, either to live here and make their lives here, or those who come for a shorter period of time, are such an integral part of this community. So I know you share with me in expressing our condolences to everyone. I did also have the opportunity to go to East 43rd the Monday after the tragedy. This is a pretty sad report because I've also attended 2 celebrations of life in the last week. One for Brian Smith, who was a longtime provider of he learned caring for his late wife Heather about caregiving for dementia. I just realized some people went Brian Smith and thought about a different Brian Smith. But he passed away, and so our thoughts go to Rosella Leslie, who many of us know, and Brian's family. And the second one was Phyllis Morris, who was a friend. Her son, Bruce, is a very good friend of mine. And she was the older sister of Dick and John Clayton. She passed away. Oh, and of course, better known as the founder of the upstairs, downstairs shop in Trail Bay. So again, our thoughts go to all of Phyllis's family and especially Bruce and Marg Morris. Marg, who's been running upstairs, downstairs for a long time. If you thought that was bad, I've been back and forth to Vancouver picking up family from YVR, which is an extraordinarily well-run organization and facility. Problem is I had to come back and catch a BC ferry. And in the last 2 weeks, I think it's probably 12 trips, and none of them have been on time, not even close. So I appreciate Mayor White and Mayor Leonard of Bowen speaking up and soliciting a response from the Premier. I've got some other ideas that I've been working on, and Route 3, we've been ignored too long, so I'll be coming back to all of you with some ideas, specific opportunities and solutions that I hope we can share. And the last and the most annoying thing I can imagine is that somebody stole the AED out of here. And it's the terrible irony that, as I understand it, somebody collapsed on Monday night, and I don't believe they needed the AED, but somebody went to look for it and it wasn't there. Can't comprehend what kind of a jerk would steal that. And turns out I've learned Davis Bay had their AED stolen, and help me, Hackett Park. So, you know, my message, if somebody's offering you a cheap AED, buy it and please return it. You know, I just have no words. It's so reprehensible. Other than that, tomorrow's my 49th wedding anniversary, so there we go. I'll leave on that. That's not a sad thing.
You should have led
That's-
with that.
Yes. Okay, so thank you for indulging me in that. Council, we'll go to correspondence, 10.1. I think these are just here, not just, they're here for receipt. Fortunately, we didn't get funding for, or the SDBA didn't get funding for the Boulevard project concept. And I think that's all we need to say about that. And congratulations to the team here that put together the resolution, the mandatory good neighbor agreement. That will be going to UBCM in the fall. So a motion to receive both of those, please, and seconded, all in favor of receipt. Carried. All right, anything else, council? Turn to adjournment. All in favor? We are adjourned. We'll take questions. And, oops. Oh, that's a good fake, Pam. Tom, we need the microphone, I think. Do we have anybody online?